happy birthday to you.
Hey, this is Dennis O'Brien. First time ever having a guest on the show having a birthday.
Yes.
Okay,
So
Sidney
we wanna
Clemens
say-
is here. Sidney Clemens is a professor at Eastern Connecticut State University, also has strong connections to our town and the area. And I happened to run into her recently. I had never met her before, I don't think, but I knew about her. I heard about her doings in terms of food and whatnot, and and I knew her mother because her mother was a member of my original Little League girls softball team a few years ago, and
Just a couple of years.
just
right?
a couple, yeah, not long, but long enough, But she is Sydney's mother, so
Yeah.
she wasn't born yesterday.
And-
Anyway,
yeah,
Laura,
yeah.
Laura Smith.
Yeah,
who
welcome
I know
to
her
the
as
show.
Laura Smith.
Yeah, I just
And
want to say.
and also
yeah.
I wanted to mention her, Sydney's grandfather, Dick Smith. Dick Smith, and I knew Jane, of course. Poor Jane has passed away
Yeah, we're sorry.
last July, I
Thank
guess.
you.
And
Yes.
great. You had wonderful maternal grandparents. Wonderful. Dick Smith was, when I first got on the Democratic Town Committee, and I've been on it for more than 45 years, the one person who helped me the most to get the votes I needed, because it was always hotly contested back then, and it was a 50-member committee, and there was only one opening. It was an interim opening, and the one person who helped me the most to get the votes I needed, I won by one vote, was your grandfather, Dick Smith.
I believe that.
Yep.
He's always kind of working behind the scenes. One of my favorite things about him is if we go anywhere in town, like talking to a waitress or something, he asks like, what's their last name? And he like is making this like mental Rolodex and like connecting of like, is your uncle so-and-so? How's their dog doing? And that's just kind of been the example that I've grown up with my entire life. So this felt like a natural path to just kind of work in Willie. Yeah.
That's a good thing, I think, because I'm like that too. But he had an advantage over me because I wasn't born and raised here. But Dick was once a police officer. He was a restaurant owner. Of course, he's now a state marshal, and I still do business with him. And wonderful guy. And again, you're lucky to have him as a grandparent.
Yeah.
And Jane also was a wonderful person. And and I know your mom. And your mom was, wow, she was a good kid when I knew her. And I didn't know her as an adult, but I think she's a nurse, right?
Yep, she's a nurse. Still very involved in the community. She has like all of those same values that my grandparents installed in us.
Right, right.
Same thing with all of my uncles and cousins. We're all still very local and committed to the community. Yeah.
Great family. Come from a great family. You're lucky.
Yeah.
Anyway, can you talk a little bit about what you're doing now, and then we'll go back and go into how you got to be where you are.
Yeah.
I usually like to go chronologically, but I think I want you to tell our listeners right away, what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I'm currently working as a visiting assistant professor at Eastern. I'm in the geography or political science, philosophy, and geography department. I am trained as a geographer. I just graduated with my PhD from UConn in December, actually.
Congratulations.
So, thank you.
That's
Newly
great.
a doctor.
Yes,
yeah,
wonderful.
It feels awesome.
Yeah. It's good
Glad
to
to
get
be
that
done.
done.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably the best reward.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so I've been working as an adjunct at Eastern for the past couple years, 3 years, I think, and this is my first year being there full time.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful, and that's it's a great area that you've been working in, both as while you're getting your PhD and what you're doing now. Tell us a little bit about what led you to through the PhD and through maybe some of the things that occurred during the COVID, thing, and how your focus is on food and geography. So.
Yeah, in 2015, I started working at Not Only Juice, which was like a farm to table cafe that we had here on Main Street.
Yeah.
And that kind of really opened my eyes to the really alternative food scene that we have in Eastern Connecticut. We have so many farmers, we have the Willimantic Food Co-op, just this abundance of resources. And I was kind of hooked from then. So I ended up working with Girl Wyndham. That turned into the Wyndham Community Food Network, and then I wanted to figure out how to scale this. So I'm a geographer. I'm going to talk about scale and local level a lot. And so going to get my PhD at UConn felt like the next best step of how all of this great work that we're doing in Eastern Connecticut could serve as a model for Connecticut or New England or even the country.
I was so thrilled to learn about Grow Wyndham, and every so often I run into a student that's partaking in the Grow Wyndham, group and working over there by the Lauder Park. And what a wonderful thing that is to, teach agricultural opportunities to our students. Have them understand that, because I know that we've gotten so removed from agriculture in some ways by shopping in the supermarket, go through corporate purchases as opposed to local. And now we've got the food co-op, of course, over the last 30 years or so, maybe longer. and we have local food that's being grown here, and we have Click. So we have a lot of interesting, agricultural opportunities here, right here in Eastern Connecticut, and we want to make sure we support them and have them grow. No pun intended, but
Yeah, Grow Wyndham does a great job of teaching like these youth gardening skills, but what I also really admire about them, also full disclosure, I'm still currently on the board of Grow Wyndham, so I might be a little biased and talk them up
Excellent.
a lot.
Good work.
Yeah.
Please do.
But
please
what
do.
they do is they teach these youth how to be leaders in our community, and food is such a great segue into talking about kind of these larger social justice, environmental issues, because everybody eats. It's one of the things that we all have in common and can convene around. And so teaching them food as like the mechanism of it, but then the overall leadership skills that they develop around going through this program is huge. And Grow Wyndham has been, we're 12 years in as a program now, I believe. And they've just been honing it and improving every year.
That is so phenomenal. And I just want to say, when you talk about in your paper that you did about the geography, and that you did, wonderful paper. And is it online, first of all? So
That's how I got it.
Yeah. So you want to tell
I
people how to
found it,
reach
yeah.
it? Yeah. Go ahead.
Which paper? Oh, you guys read? Okay, yeah.
This
My
is-
journal. So a couple years ago with Grow Wyndham, we got a USDA grant about a regional networking opportunity through like how we can bring these food networks and kind of hone like all of these interesting innovations we were seeing around COVID. We saw how empty grocery store shelves were during that time, and so people were going to the farmers market more. We were leaving food like on our neighbors' doorsteps. People were getting really into community gardening, and we're like, how do we harness this energy as things kind of start to open back up? So we partnered with a bunch of different food organizations throughout Eastern Connecticut and started bringing people in and having conversations of how do we make our network stronger? How do we keep this momentum going? And we learned a lot of lessons around it from like a community organizing perspective. The people that work in these organizations, the farmers, like they know what they're doing. They know how to grow food. And so this was helping us address some of that access and distribution issues. And this really inspired kind of the work I ended up doing for my dissertation as well. So I took this like applied, like really like grassroots organizing thing and then tried to look at it from an academic lens and put it through like how we can get local food better like into the homes of customers, and not just people that are shopping at the food co-op or going to the farmers market, but also like places like the soup kitchen or local pantries, people that don't have access to some of this like local food normally.
And I love the way that you talk about local food in your paper, because you said when you tried to figure out what people thought of local food or what they were buying, some people thought, well, I get local food because I go to the co-op, or I get local food because I go to the farmer's market, or I get local food because I shop at Stop and Shop. And, and the definition we haven't quite come to grips with.
Yeah, it's so subjective of what local food means to people, and I'm not going to paint one strategic definition
Sure,
here.
that's fine. Yep.
But I think it's something really important that researchers have to consider when they're talking about local food is what aspect of local food are you thinking of? Are we looking at actually food miles, how far the food is traveled from the farm to the grocery store? Are we talking about Stop and Shop, or we want to support like the local economic business or IGA? From that perspective, there's so many different routes, and so it's hard to just kind of paint this broad picture.
Exactly, and one of the things that I think of when I think of local food is health, because one of the things, if you have allergies, if you eat more local food, then your allergies are diminished somewhat because you're fixing your immune system to whatever it is that you're exposed to in the region that you're living in. So I like, for example, get local honey, and that way when you put that in your coffee or you add it to whatever food you're sweetening, that is a way for you to mitigate some of the problems you might have with an allergy.
Yeah, and like these farmers, I think of them, they're almost
Yes,
like
yes.
alchemists, like the things that they do with like soil health and how that translates into like how juicy or tasty your tomato is and the varieties that they pick because they know they're suited for like their specific soil. I admire them so much.
That is such a great point, and that's something I haven't heard before. So I love that. That's really excellent information. I know that I come from an agricultural family on my father's side. My grandmother had tons of blueberry fields, a few thousand or so acres, and so every year we'd have blueberries to go rake, and of course we had lots of fresh blueberries and a lot of blueberry pie and all kinds of other blueberry things. So I'll never forget, I was with Grammy in the supermarket one day, and she saw blueberry juice, and oh, was she thrilled to see it.
Yeah, that sounds like a really fun childhood.
You should talk about my experience with blueberry fields. I didn't care for it. City boy
Let me
from
just
New
say,
Britain, Connecticut. No,
well,
not for me. After
well,
a few hours, we got enough for a blueberry pie, and that was about it. I'm out of here. It was very hot and
it is a
a
lot
lot
of
of
work.
bugs. And,
I mean, I was
farm
out
work
there.
is hard.
I was out there, and because I wasn't such a great blueberry raker, they had me
You were
lining
not,
off the
I'm sure.
fields. Yes.
They gave you an easier
They
job.
gave me an easier job. They
Yeah.
took care of that. It was a little nepotism, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah, because your Grammy owned the property.
But anyway, I sidetracked, but I want to get back
You
to
digressed,
the
yeah.
yeah.
It's okay. We do that all the time.
Yeah, well. Anyway, so I just wanted to, go and connect us a little bit with Click, because our licensed kitchen here also is agricultural, and they're connecting with what you might call regional agricultural, groups that come in and process the food at Click. And it's one of the things that we've supported at the state and also on the federal level to make sure that we have resources that are supported. And I really, kind of been watching Click for years, and they've been doing great work. I noticed that you mentioned Click in your paper.
There's so much like amazing work that Click has been doing for the past decade now. One of the like newer projects that I'm like really excited about is them developing a food hub. And so we talk about the farmers are their experts. They know like how to grow the food. The big problem is this like middle of the supply chain where places like Walmart or Stop and Shop, they have like all of those like big refrigerated trucks. They have the shipping ability. They have the customers, the scale. And that's one of the hardest barriers of entry for farmers to kind of continue to sell their product. So what Click is doing is they're working as kind of like that local level middleman where they're aggregating the food from farmers. And then that makes it so that these farmers can get into bigger markets. So let's say I'm a pizza restaurant and I want to use tomato sauce with local tomatoes. Farmers here are pretty diversified. They're not just growing tomatoes. And so I would have to call like 10 farmers to get the amount of tomatoes I need every week. And what restaurant owner has the time to do that? Instead, they can go to Click, and Click will do that legwork for them and find all of the farmers, get like the 1,000 pounds of tomatoes that they need, and then it's just one phone call, kind of like them calling Restaurant Depot or placing an order with like Sodexo or something. And so this is like the local version of that, and I think this is kind of the future for where food systems are going. And Chelsea Charrier has like been spearheading that, and I'm in awe of her. Yeah.
Chelsea has been a guest on our show.
Yeah, we've had
Yeah.
Chelsea on our show, and we've had a lot of people.
Well,
that are,
Phoebe Godfrey, of course,
Phoebe Godfrey,
several
yes,
times.
yeah, and
Yeah.
then also Representative Foster, who did some of her student internship at Click back in the
Okay.
day, and she's at the Capitol now.
That's
as a
Jamie
state-
Foster from Ellington.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Exactly. So she was on our show back in the day when she was a student at Click.
I think that's like the beauty of all of these organizations too. Like Grow Wyndham does like something very similar of that. It's like working in these like local food systems nonprofits is you're not just learning about food, you're learning about leadership skills, sustainability, and like those skills are then transferable out into like broader levels.
It's really important, and it's something that when I think about my sociological ideas, because I went to Eastern and got a degree in sociology back in the day, and one of the things that I brought to mind when I was reading your paper was the idea of, and I'm not going to, I'll use the definition of the Gemeinschaft versus Gesellschaft. That is the from local community relationships to outside the community, and then working your way back from outside the community back into the local relationships inside the community as a sociological phenomenon that has occurred for centuries. And I think we're going back to that, and finding our way back is what you're doing right now.
Those networking skills that you grow, and I think at the local level is where people really have like the most power to enact change. And I think that's something that students, especially like my students at Eastern, really need to feel right now. It's a hard time being a student, like student loan prices, like housing.
Yes.
It is just very hard to be a young person.
Yes, it
and
is.
they feel disenfranchised, like they're maybe don't have a voice in a lot of these like larger issues. But I try so hard to show them that at the local level, they do have a voice. They really can make change.
Yeah, it's still a great country. We have to keep it that way.
And the
There's
connections.
still opportunity. It is a lot more expensive. I was lucky enough to be born during World War II, and I'm old. That makes me old, and I'd rather be younger. But it was a great time to be born, because when World War II ended, the economy here was incredible, because the economies of the rest of the world were destroyed by the war.
Yep.
So we had markets for all our consumer goods, and the cost of living was so low.
Yeah.
And I was able to go to UConn for $75 a semester in the late 60s after I got out of the Army. And today it's really wow, it's so expensive. I mean, it is so
$75.
expensive. And I mentioned how I coached Little League for a long time after I first met your mother and her contemporaries, and I'll tell you, a lot of the kids that I've met over the years end up going to trade school, which is great. The tech schools are great. In fact, we need more of them. We need more space, because there's a need for it. Try to get an electrician sometime.
Yeah.
And, it's there's a need for it. But I think you mentioned I think you talked about the industrial based system, and you mentioned it before about the trucks they have and all that stuff and the capabilities they have. So it's a tough situation. It's not easy. But in this area of the state, with the two big universities, one up the road and the other one here, which wasn't big when we got here, but it became big, just like Central in my hometown. I mean, it's a great atmosphere for the kind of work that you're doing. And do you have a lot of students that are interested in these topics?
I actually just wrote a letter of recommendation for one of my students to go get a food systems master at the University of Colorado.
Oh, great.
And that is probably the peak of my semester so far. I love that I've convinced her that she's drank the Kool-Aid and wants to go into food systems.
You've influenced her. That's wonderful.
But
that's what teachers want to do. I mean, you want to teach, and you're teaching, and you've got a great message, and it's not easy, because but it is. If changes are going to be made, they're going to be made by the people who are the young people.
Yeah, you talk about going to trade schools, and here we definitely have a shortage of the trades. And then we're also in this weird shifting economy right now of future job prospects. It's not just the industrialization of the food system. We are seeing kind of this AI revolution where a lot of entry level jobs are getting kind of cut, and it's tough out there for students. But in Eastern Connecticut, where we have such a rural kind of nature, or hybrid rural urban kind of area, I think that there's so many opportunities for students to look for jobs, and we need them here as well. I think that there's a lot of brain drain that happens students are from a young age are told like you should go away to college,
Yeah.
and then you should go live in a city. There's this like shame associated with like staying in your hometown as well, of like you got to go out and make it big.
Yeah,
and
you
so-
would know that better than I would. I don't remember that, but I can see how that could happen.
Yeah, and so I try to
Yeah.
really show them that it is like Willimantic is my favorite place on earth.
Yeah, that's great.
But you should also be proud of that where you're from. Most of my students are from Connecticut,
Yeah.
or at least like the Northeast area. And that there's a beauty of like knowing your community so deeply and like knowing what you can contribute there. And like when we think about Eastern alumni, I didn't realize you were an Eastern alum.
Yes.
And so like look at what you've done for the community by
thank you.
staying in the community. I mean, look at Andy Goot or
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
yeah, Garnet from
Garnet
McLaughlin.
McLaughlin,
Yeah,
we
Yes.
know quite
Trigo.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's started a business here.
Yeah.
She is on the DTC. These are Eastern alumni that are actually like working in the community and making real change. They're bringing us jobs, economic opportunity, and I just want to really do my part to contribute like that going forward
That's
with my
wonderful.
students.
Yeah, as well as our daughter, Leslie O'Brien,
Yeah.
Johnson O'Brien, who, and her husband, Tony Kidd, they both graduated from Eastern. And she actually was friends with your mom because she played ball.
She played
they
ball
played
at the
ball
same
together,
time.
yeah.
They were on different teams, though. One team was made up of. I was smart. I had Kramer girls on one team and the St. Mary's kids on the other, and it worked. It worked out.
Yeah.
And the Kramer kids were a tougher crowd, but I ended up coaching them, and it was tough.
Yeah.
But Laura's team was Joe Henry coached that team, and it was their practices were much milder and better, easier to organize, let's say. But yeah, Leslie played. Leslie's about the same age as your mom,
Yeah.
and you talk in your paper. I was really attracted to what you wrote about. Silos and
Yes.
organizing, and when we're dealing with silos, which is hard
Yeah.
because I organized that program from pretty much from nothing. I was lucky. I had a lot of kids who had played Little League baseball, so we lucked out, and we had some pretty good players, and we had a good core of experienced players and a lot of players who had never played, and that program was for everybody. It wasn't for just the superior players. It was for everybody because I think I'm going to go on my soapbox here again. Playing team sports is a great way to learn a lot of skills that you're not going to learn as quickly, as expeditiously in another context, like in a classroom. So that was my first organizational adventure in this town, organizing people.
Yeah.
And I had to work with the parents. That's how you do it. And so I went from that into politics and done a lot of organizing here in town for many, many, many years. And it's not easy.
No.
You're just reading about your experience doing organization around food programs was very interesting to me because you encounter those kinds of things, and the way to learn how to become a good organizer is to organize. And the experience, because you make a lot, just like anything else, that's or almost anything else, you make a lot of mistakes, and you learn by your mistakes. And there's a way to do it, but it's not self-evident, and it's not something that you can learn by somebody just talking to you. You have to go out and do it.
Yeah.
And that is a real good message that I think that you are, passing on to your students about just go out and do it. Get your feet wet.
Yeah.
And if you work hard, then sometimes you even get lucky
Yeah.
with certain things. But you're not going to get lucky if you don't work at it. You got to work every day. 24/7. That's my view. Anyway, Matt Rupar's back here to tell us that it's time for us to take a break. Our sponsors, we have sponsors, wonderful sponsors, and they want to do their thing. So in the middle of our show, we have a commercial break.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Susan Johnson. I'm here with my co-host Dennis O'Brien, and we have our wonderful guest Sydney Clemens, who is a professor at Eastern Connecticut State University, working on food geography, and it's fabulous work that she's been doing, organizing different groups, and really huge amount of interesting information. She's written something on lessons from building regional food systems in Eastern Connecticut, which is really spot on to where we are and what we've been talking about here on Let's Talk About It with the Click organization, and a number of other things that have been going on, like Grow Wyndham. I'm just very, very, very pleased to have you here with this fabulous organizational information, because it's something that I think that we really need to take a peek at. And also, some of the things, when you talk about this in your paper, you talk about the foodies, but also the people that have food needs. You want to go into a little bit of discussion about the two different aspects and maybe how we can merge them at some point?
There's so many different kind of approaches to this. During this grant that we worked on, we discovered like kind of two groups of people that are willing to kind of pay that premium price for food. They're shopping really with their values. Not that other groups necessarily don't have values, but they have the economic means to kind of put that before where their like dollars are going. And so how can we kind of leverage that economic power that they have to make sure that those that don't have that power in our society still have access to food? So we talk about exploring sliding scale models, or a lot of the work that CLIC does through grants where they're working on distributing food to like local schools or restaurants, but how can some of the food that they're harvesting or gathering also go back to local food pantries, which is a program that they also continue to run called Mesa Comunitaria, which called like the community table, and it's a food delivery pantry service using a lot of these local food from the area. And so fundraising stuff is used to offset those costs, so people, you don't just need to have that economic power that seems to be ever more and more important in our society to eat well.
Yes, absolutely. I just was very, very interested in seeing that differences working together, and how we can begin to teach each other about growing that one row in your yard of food. I mean, and I thought about that, and then I thought about both of my grandmothers who had those gardens in the back, and they always had corn, they had squash, they had all kinds of veggies, and they were just delicious and fresh. The tomatoes, they both did it, and you'd go out in the summertime and you'd see this big, maybe, I don't know, quarter of an acre or half an acre of veggies being grown every year. I mean, it was just, how do you do that when you're 90? I mean,
Well, my mother, back to my family, my mother was born in 1915, and she talked about living on a farm in New Britain. And you wouldn't, hard to imagine that. I'm sure it was fairly small, but they had their own, they had pigs and chickens and stuff like that, and they grew a lot of stuff, and so it was like people did that back in the day. And I think what you're driving at to some extent, it's a different world, such a different world now, is moving back in that sort of direction, that is where people take charge of their own, let's say, health, because it's a healthier thing to do, to grow your own food and to have it come from the local area.
Yeah, if we're talking about families, I'm going to have to, again, shout out my grandparents. As you guys mentioned earlier, my grandmother passed away this summer, and so this is my first birthday without her, so it's it's weird.
Tough. Yeah, I understand that,
but I was thinking about kind of the impact that she had on my life, and I always kind of, when people ask me like why I care about Willimantic so much, what my origin story is, it really comes from my grandparents.
Yeah.
I was a kid when the 60 Minutes documentary kind of piece came out, and my family had a viewing party, and everyone was outraged. But I also remember, have this vivid memory of just how sad my grandmother was, of this community that she loved so much was portrayed this way. That's something that has just always stayed with me and has really inspired my work going forward, of I see the beauty here and I want to continue to show everyone else the beauty of this place as well.
Absolutely. I believe that there is a true misunderstanding about how our urban areas in Connecticut work. And what has happened is we had industrialization. We had all those things. People had jobs. Sense of community was very strong. Churches were very strong. And then, I'm going to say it, Reagan came along.
Come on.
And
You're always picking on poor Reagan. Not that he doesn't deserve it.
And then Reagan came along, and he took away our industrialized society. He gave huge tax exemptions and credits to these corporations that were producing manufacturing right here in these urban areas all throughout the country, not just Connecticut. Take a look at what happened to Detroit. And we lost all those,
How about New
all that
Britain?
industry, and New Britain.
Yeah.
We will not leave out New Britain.
I know.
And
I can tell you all about it.
And so can I. And so,
Yeah.
and I didn't really realize what had happened until I went to law school and I took tax law, and then I got it all put together because we were at legal aid back then, and we saw all the disruption and the changes in the social services programs that were defunded, and were or limited, or they lost income, let's say. And then we also saw the erosion of the industrial base, and then all the costs were placed on the communities that had, say, they had a public housing, or they had more apartments and that kind of thing.
That's what
So
trickled down, yeah.
Yeah, and that was shifted to the urban areas that took
cost.
care of the region. And to this day, our urban areas, like right here in Wyndham, Willimantic, we take care of the region. There's only two other towns that have homeless shelters, one in New London and one in Killingly-Danielson. We have 3 shelters for the homeless here. We have more public housing on a per capita basis than anywhere else in the state of Connecticut except Hartford. We take care of the region. So for people to then go, gee, we're taking all your resources. How come you can't manage when we take all your resources?
wrong with you,
What's
Hartford?
wrong with you, man? It's like
That's a common
wild.
theme on the
I'm
show.
sorry, you
Yeah,
set me
no.
off.
I agree with you, everything you say. And then from the geographic perspective,
Yes.
you also think about like urban renewal in the built environment and how we lost like a thriving Main Street for malls, and
Yes.
Yep.
how we had to kind of shift to being a car-centric society, and then we lose industry and public transportation, and everyone suddenly has to get a job in Hartford, and so Willimantic just becomes exactly, we are like this urban hub. We like support so much of Eastern Connecticut,
Yep.
and I think that's another reason with like Eastern students being here, like they're a resource both to the community, but Willimantic is also like a beautiful teaching tool of
Yes.
you can show them like exact examples. You can point to Gilson Square and talk about how we used to have different housing there, and there used to be businesses, and then a lot of like when they tore down those houses, where those businesses went, and how the Eastbrook Mall has like kind of affected our Main Street going forward. They can see all of these like tangible examples, and I think it makes all of that stuff click for them more. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was so
think
glad you mentioned the Eastbrook Mall, because we were here just as that occurred. We moved in here about 1974. We had Tubrieties on Main Street. We had all these shoe stores on Main Street, Ben's, Eagle, all those shoe
All kinds
stores,
of
all
stuff.
places, all kinds of places. And then the mall opened. And oh boy, all these places moved into the mall, and then the mall raised the rents, and then they all went away. And now look at the mall; it's not doing all that well, is it? But anyway, I digress.
But Main
You
Street's coming
digress.
back. Main Streets are
Yay,
coming
Main
back.
Street. Yay.
Yeah, okay,
And
we're-
thank you, I
as
gotta
long
say,
as
give a
there's-
plug to
long as
WILI for looking at developing our businesses on Main Street. Thank you, WILI, for being there for the businesses here on Main Street. Yeah.
Thank you, WILI, for providing forums like ours to
Yeah.
so that if people like Sidney Clemens can come on and tell it like it is.
Yeah.
And that is that's why we're here. That's why we've been doing this for. Susan's been doing it for more than 25 years.
I also think in no part is like the organizers that are in this like community as well. Like they deserve a huge shout out as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
Of like, so I'll bring it back to like thinking about when the 60 Minutes piece came out. I
Yeah.
had just started going to school in Mansfield. And I remember a student or like a classmate's mom calling my mom to be like, yeah, she can come over to play, but you're not allowed to take her to Willimantic. It's not safe there. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like,
That's
we're
a
going to go
great
hang
story.
out at my grandparents'
Yeah.
house. And like she didn't want her kid to step foot in Willimantic. Mind you, I grew up near the Eastern baseball field, so that's like Willimantic anyways.
Right.
Right.
But then we have things like Third Thursday and like all of these events that Willimantic Renaissance goes. And I remember being in high school later and running into that classmate's mom at a Third Thursday, and I was like, oh, look who's in Willimantic. Look, like it is the cool place. It is not the scary place. Like we have done so much to change the perceptions and show how beautiful this community is.
Yeah.
So all of these organizers, like you guys, Jean Dismay, you guys are my idols. And
Aw.
it is just
Thank
so
you.
it's
Sweet
so great
talker.
to carry
We-
on this work.
we-
yeah.
we
Thank you so
we
much.
love it here.
Yes,
We're
we
not
do.
going anywhere. Tom DeVivo is here. He
Yep.
doesn't need to be here. He's given a lot. He's doing a really good job as our mayor. He's investing money in the community.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people. There are lots of good people here, lots of great people here. So many. We have, this show. We do this show every Friday. We have no trouble finding great guests for the show. People that are really doing a lot here, and who believe in the community. The community is one, and the thing that makes me happiest of all about the community is the community. We accept everybody. Everybody's accepted here.
Yeah.
Nobody is not welcome, and that is that does lead to certain problems, certain issues that we have to deal with. But I'd rather be a community that is open to other people, everybody,
But,
no matter who they are,
I just want to say about
than
that
a community that keeps people out.
as well is that Eastern has done numerous safety we've been, with respect to safety and the students, and we've come out as one of the top safest places to be in the country in terms of student population.
That's right.
So it's because, and we have 3 police forces, so I guess that might be why.
Well, they're good. The police are pretty good too, and I know that for a fact because I'm on the board that, we're kind of the board of finance for the police. I've learned a lot about the
They do a
police
great job.
department, and it's a tough job, and they do a very good job.
But we're also we're really good at knowing our neighbors as
Right.
well.
Yeah.
I am I am a huge pedestrian. I walk everywhere.
That's great.
And it's great, but it's also sometimes a hindrance. It takes me a long time to get places
Yeah, it takes
people will be
time.
like,
That's the
"Hey,
problem.
how you doing?" Like, there's a lot of chatting that happens
But
as you're
imagine when she
walking down
goes
the
out.
street.
She knows more people
Yeah,
than
I
anybody.
can't even imagine. Like the grocery store.
I
must
don't
be
like to
hard.
walk. I don't
I
like.
can't get my grandchildren to go
Yeah.
with me because Grammy, you just talk all the time.
I don't even like to. When we were walking a lot, and doing race walking and stuff, I didn't like to go with her because I don't like to stop.
Yeah.
When I'm working. This is my part of my workout, and everybody, and I know a lot of people too, but she knows more people now than I used to know more than her when I was a judge, but she knows more now than I do. And I, she's knocked on every door in town X number of times, and she loves it, and you got to love it to do that. But this is a great, and I'll tell you, people are so nice. You knock on their doors and you say hello. Calling them on the phone is one thing because they're getting all these crazy calls from people trying to sell them something. That doesn't work anymore like it did in my early days on the town committee. But knocking on doors does. People are very friendly.
Yeah.
It's a friendly place. It's not dangerous.
Not dangerous, so inviting.
No,
We're
it's
all
not.
a little weird too, which is like the best.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's
Well,
It's like the charm of
you
Willie.
mentioned that,
Well,
and I
everybody's
gotta
a
say,
little weird.
I gotta say
Sydney. Come on.
that when we went to New Orleans, I thought, Willimantic reminds me of a mini New Orleans. It really does.
And that
It's
was a
just
great place to
It was a
visit.
great place to visit. Wonderful. It had rivers just like we
Yeah.
do, and it had, industrial history.
Trolleys.
It has historic buildings,
Yeah.
all those kinds of things. And we have so many of them. We have a frog bridge. How many
Yeah.
places have a frog bridge, right?
We have an
Yeah.
airport. We have all kinds of stuff.
Airport. I mean, can you
I wanna
imagine
know more about
25,000
food.
people
Wait a minute,
in
Susan. Come on.
an
Oh,
airport?
I want to.
We
I love. I
digress.
can talk about Willie forever.
Well,
I think it's
well,
because
that's
we're
good.
resourceful.
You know,
Love it. Yes.
Like we're making community
Yeah.
gardens out of our public parks.
That's fabulous.
Because
Yes.
we don't have a lot of space to grow food
Right.
on a farm or even in gardens because it's such an urban area.
Yeah.
But then we have things like the boombox parade. We didn't have a marching band, so we figured it out.
Yeah.
We were embarrassed that we were scared by a bunch of frogs in the middle of the night, and instead of letting that be a badge of shame, it became a badge of honor.
Yeah.
I think that's just the spirit of this town.
Well,
is
that came from
so
a
great.
professor at Eastern, who David Phillips, good friend of mine, good friend of ours,
Yes.
also a St. Louis Cardinals fan like me, and we used to get together and watch games. Came from him. I mean, Eastern has played such an important role in this town over the years, and it is such an asset. And now we have, I'll tell you what, we've got a president of Eastern. You probably know him.
Yeah.
He is so good. He is such a people person. And we run into him everywhere.
Yeah.
And he's been on the show, and we're going to have him back soon. And, he's just so bubbly and
Yeah.
positive, and I'm just so happy to have him here.
And really committed to the community. He doesn't
Yes.
believe that so much of academia I feel is up on the
Yes.
hill in
Yes.
the ivory tower.
There's that.
But he that is not what the goal for Eastern is at all. That he believes that we should be integrated into the community, and I feel really honored that I can kind of help build that bridge with this new administration that we have at Eastern.
That is great.
Yeah.
I really love that.
We're happy with him.
I'd love to just go into a little bit of these the food systems impact and the partners. You want to just hit on a few of those and tell us about them and your. I mean, we talked a little bit about Click, and you've got the Grow Wyndham, and those are great things. And how are and we're talking about Eastern,
Yeah.
connecting Eastern
We don't have a
food
lot of time
things.
left.
Uh,
I want to hear about the geography of food. I want to hear
Well,
all about it.
okay,
That's,
all right.
and you know,
All right.
you can, I'm
Okay,
sure you could
well,
talk
how-
about that for days.
Well, we're gonna have to have you back. That's all there is.
Yeah, you
to
gotta
it.
I mean, I would love to.
Yes,
we'll
yeah.
do it. We'll do it. One just on geography, one on food,
Yeah,
one on
okay.
Willie.
Very good.
But let's do the universities. Let's
Yeah,
just limit
talking
to that.
about the partners, I mean, this is a work that I publish, but like I talk a lot about silos in this. I don't exist as like someone that does this work solo. Like I am really, I don't know, I work with a team. I like help try and I'd call it herding cats sometimes of like this organizing work.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's bringing everyone's ideas together, and like none of this can be done without all of the amazing people that we've like worked through of this. So Eastern, Click, a bunch of farms, so Cobblestone Farm, Sweetacre Farm, Willow Valley Farm, the Willimantic Food Co-op, Access, Yukon. There's so many groups that have just really come together and rallied around this one issue of food. But food is just kind of that topic conversation point, and we're using that to address social justice issues, environmental justice issues, transportation issues, funding, economics, and like so food might be the topic, but it has this huge ripple effect that we see in the
Do you
community.
know Sarah Moon?
Sarah Moon?
Sarah Moon is a professor at. She just moved back from Rhode Island. She's married to a guy from Andover who's a really close friend of mine, and she does these things where people talk about food and their relationship to food. They're like presentations.
Oh, through the co-op, I've seen these
Yeah,
advertised. They
yeah.
look really cool.
I could put you to. I'd like to link you up with
Yeah.
her. She's really into it, and.
Yeah, see, the beauty of networking. Like, this is
Oh,
awesome.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, this is what one of the things I wanted to say about networking is, politically, I've learned to operate like when I was on the town council, 1-to-1, and instead of making a big pitch in a group, I like to work on people 1-to-1.
Yeah.
And really get to know them and really, just have a face-to-face conversation.
Yeah.
And then go to the group and then together, but that's how I like to do things, and I think Sarah Moon is somebody you would like a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That'd be...
I know her pretty well, and again she's married to a friend of mine, Dan Warren. They
Yeah.
live in Coventry now.
We should try and get some more of the geography in, though. And so what type of food are we growing more here than say in another state?
So as I mentioned, like before, a lot of the farmers in Connecticut are really diversified. So a big farm in Connecticut is like 4, 5, 10 acres. When if you're looking at farm out west, that's thousands and
Right.
thousands of acres.
That's small.
Like a monoculture, they're growing like large commodity kind of crops, where
Yeah.
these are more like specialty kind of crops, which basically just means they're not subsidized by the government.
Yeah.
But those are your standard fruits and vegetables. That we are growing up here, and super diversified, especially more now that we see some of these like crazy climate things happening with
Oh.
droughts or extreme rainfall. I feel like it doesn't just rain a little bit anymore. It either rains not at all or like 2 inches at a
You
time.
got it.
And so the farmers have really been starting to kind of adapt what they're growing to kind of match the climate that is changing here. So things like maybe like bok choy or something that's pretty like good, like resistant to some kind of like soil diseases or pests that we see up here, and then focusing on the types of varieties as well. So not just any random tomato, but what tomato is going to do really well in kind of our rocky soil of New England. Yeah.
So that is really very fascinating, and it's really something that I love to drill down into all that analysis, because
Yeah.
the farmers have to know about the soil and how it works with the different plants.
Yeah.
And so soil science becomes a big part of this.
They're soil scientists, they're marketers, they are the accountants, they're the Like
Yeah,
they're
it's a-
doing everything. It's crazy.
It's one of the
a
things that I've
busy
always
life.
said about a
Yeah.
farm, that farmers really know how to do, and they understand how everything
Yeah.
works, and they know,
They know how to
things.
fix things, too.
Yeah, they're mechanics.
they're
Yeah.
mechanics. I know. I come from
can't do
farmers.
that.
I mean, and they
to
are
hire
really
somebody.
excellent at being able to do anything,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
And I think that people don't understand if you haven't grown up and having some farm background
Yeah.
in your
Like you.
family.
Not me.
And I used to, help my Grammy back. And
Yeah.
I'd go up in the summertime and spend some time with her and help her with this or that. Whatever thing was going on at the time because of the weather
Yeah.
or because of whatever, maybe she had a cricket
Yeah.
infestation or something. It was
Yeah.
always something to work on, aside from the blueberries. And, it was really quite a good lesson. It really, I wish I'd had more of it. On the other hand, it was great to be able to be somebody who had a farm background, a suburban background, and now a small urban background.
Yeah.
I mean, I have all those three types of living styles that I've lived in. So I get a lot of things. I don't get everything, but certainly not a big
Yeah.
city.
But you never lived in New Britain.
No, I
Right.
did not. No.
Right. And of course, this is the first time I've ever mentioned New Britain on the show, right? Anyway, I like to talk about a lot of things.
Yeah. So what do they grow in New Britain, Dennis?
I don't
Dog,
know.
you got New Britain Roots out there.
I
New
got
Britain
New-
Roots is like the
Hard-hitting New Britain.
like Grow Wyndham's version, or like New
Oh,
Britain's
yeah.
version of Grow
Okay.
Wyndham.
Oh, it's
And
a-
the programming, actually, their youth coordinator lives in town here, Jenna. And
Oh,
this
really?
work that she does in New Britain is amazing.
oh,
as
you
well.
have to link me up with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
We
Just
could
talk
do
about
it.
NB.
We could actually do
Right.
a show with you and her. That would be really good. Of course, Dennis has favorite restaurants there, but but New Britain is. I co-chaired the public health committee back in the day with the senator from New Britain,
Okay.
Terry Giarratana.
We're getting short on time.
Okay, yes, please. So I want you to. why
1
don't you
minute
just-
left. Say whatever you want
yeah,
to say
yeah,
on your
please,
birthday.
Yeah, it's your birthday.
And happy
Yeah.
birthday again.
Yes,
Cindy.
happy
No
birthday.
better
Yeah.
birthday present than being able to talk about Willie for like an hour.
Fantastic.
And
with
love
Susan
that.
and Dennis.
yeah, this has been a great experience. I love talking about community organizing in Willie too. I'm actually teaching a community organizing class at Eastern this semester,
Wonderful.
and kind of getting to kind of hear more from you guys about what organizing work has looked like in the community. I can't wait to tell all of my students about this moving forward. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very, very much for helping us out with the show and talking and all the great work you did. I mean, I want to go more in depth about the food opportunities here, all the different ways that we look at food, and so that we can work on, melding together the foodies with the people who have food needs and that sort of thing.
Okay, thank you very much for listening, folks. This is Dennis O'Brien with Susan Johnson, Sidney Clemens from Eastern Connecticut State University. Grew up here in Wyndham and Mansfield.
Yep.
And we'll be back next week with another great guest. Thanks for listening.